You know what pure white-knuckle fury feels like? It's that moment when someone you trusted, maybe too easily, exposes themselves as a predator who pre-recorded your downfall while pretending to bake you pie. That's right. A collector of goodwill turned into a taxidermist for kindness, stitching together fake endorsements and forged documents to gaslight a hard-working family until everything was on the line. This is what happened to Joseph Brooks, an Iowan widowed farmer, and his daughter Emma. I'm not kidding when I say what unfolded reads like a pulse-racing thriller, but it's real, and every twist was earned by grit, savvy, and a girl who refused to be scared. It all started with Monica Wright rolling into their rural world from Chicago, like she owned the horizon before she even unpacked. White BMW glinting in the sun, Chanel suit pressed to perfection, red sole heels clicking across the gravel driveway. That kind of entrance screams, "I'm a guest," not "I'm here to conquer." At first her presence seemed harmless. She was the platonic princess of the church potluck. Apple pie baker, harvest festival volunteer, farmer curious newbie. She peppered Joseph with questions about crop rotation, soil management, financial edge cases. In hindsight, those weren't friendly curiosities. They were interrogations disguised as charming interest. And almost nobody noticed. Joseph gave her the second chance benefit of the doubt because, on the surface, she was just that kind of neatly put-together woman looking for a fresh start. But Emma, keen observer and now crystal analyst for human threats, felt a misstep too. That tap on the arm, the laugh that lingered too long, the way she leaned in a little too close at night's end at the church coffee stand. Then came the confession. "Joseph, I think we could be good together." He declined gently. Her sweet mask slipped for 2 seconds, a cold flash behind the eyes, a shark's stillness, and then the smile popped back. But Joseph had seen something sharp in her gaze that never left. Fast forward 2 days, autumn winds rattling, corn standing tough but desperate for that final pass of the old John Deere before storm clouds gobbled the fields. That tractor was more than metal and pistons, it was legacy. Grandpa bought it in '98 for Dad. Dad taught Joseph to drive it at 8, and Emma just turned 16 steering that family pride. It was the main artery for saving $20,000 worth of crop from turning to mulch under the approaching storm. Monica walked into the yard, poised and dangerous in her designer shoes sinking into dirt. Eldritch clipboard in hand, she unfolded a Rural Agricultural Association Notice of Violation, County Code 47.3b, claimed the tractor blatantly violated residential zone equipment storage rules. I can still see her smile twisting as Joseph pointed out the off-font header, the skewed seal, the traced signature. For a moment it looked amateurish, but when you're staring down a wind-lit harvest and your window is literally hours from closing, nuance doesn't save fields. The tow truck arrived 30 minutes later. Joseph's heart doubled over when the driver, carryover from generations of farmland families, looked as pained as Joseph felt. Storage fees, chaining up the tractor like it was a crime scene. Monica clicking selfies like she was bagging trophies. Emma burst out of the house with her phone recording every doomed detail. That tractor on the flatbed was Joseph's lineage, and politics couldn't steer it home. Then came the call from Detective Ryan Stone of the State Agricultural Crime Unit. Joseph thought it was another Karen prank, until Ryan mentioned automated alerts from state monitoring equipment. That's when everything clicked. Those research sensors Joseph mentioned to Monica months ago weren't just tracking soil, they were high-definition cameras and microphones tied to a course research grant. Federal property protection. Ryan arrived within 15 minutes. Calm, knowledgeable. Not a city investigator, but someone who knew nitrogen cycles better than most. He listened while Joseph told the full 6-month backstory. Potlucks, cracking smiles, romantic rejection, fake documents, tow truck ambush. Ryan analyzed the paperwork on his tablet, compared registry data, and ruled it fraudulent. That Rural Agricultural Association didn't exist. The seal was fake. The documents a forgery. Beyond all that, it was interference with state-protected federal research property. Serious federal charges if pursued. Next, Ryan called the towing company. "Return the tractor now. No fees." He called Monica from the number on the docks, commanding her to be on the Brooks driveway in 30 minutes or better have a warrant. The evidence backlog was more damning than anyone expected. Monica had packs of files targeting multiple rural families, laminated sheets, printed dossiers on financial vulnerabilities, surveillance photos of the Brooks family, including Emma, mortgage statements, calendars, personal details. It was professional-grade psychological stalking. When she pulled up for the showdown, she seemed sure she'd win. Ryan's arrival dissolved that guaranteed smile into confusion and then pure panic. What followed was criminal unspooling. Monica was charged with impersonating a government official, fraud, and interfering with federal agricultural programs. For a moment, Joseph thought everything might head toward justice. But then came the anonymous text, a grainy photo of Emma walking home, red-circled, with the caption, "Pretty girls have accidents in small towns." The terror leveled up. Someone was still watching. Monica had friends or accomplices, and they were active. But Joseph and Emma didn't fold. They pressed. They tapped every advantage. Joseph contacted attorneys through his state research support network. Emma turned digital forensics ready, preserving metadata, timestamps, file origins, mapping Jill Wright's fingerprints across all her forged documents. The couple brought neighbors to their side, trade publication reporters to their cause, extra eyes on their fields. They tied Monica's attempts to sabotage Emma's college application with technical evidence that those emails were forged before Monica ever started playing nice. By the next township meeting, Emma stood in front of hundreds, walked the room through the forensic data that Glenn Wright had forged documents in advance, photos of threats, recording of her whispering about Helen's death, that psychological gauntlet Monica thought she'd hidden. When Emma clicked play on that audio, the room went statuesque. The power of hearing your predator weaponize your spouse's death against your child, recorded and undeniable, broke Monica's veneer completely. She screamed, unraveled, weapon of terror disarmed by evidence. It was catharsis in front of an entire community. Prosecutors piled on. Victim impact statements came from families in Wisconsin and Minnesota. 32 families destroyed in total, $300,000 lost, traumatized children, dissolved marriages. Monica was sentenced to 8 years federal, 2 years state, full restitution, asset forfeiture, permanent disbarment from rural community involvement. She cried victim. Judge Reynolds pulled the mask clean off. "You weaponized rural trust against vulnerable families. That's indefensible." Monica was locked back into orange before she could flip it into privilege. But Joseph and Emma weren't done. The organized harassment escalated. Stalking, false child services claims, mortgage jabs, IRS reports, admissions sabotage. All rounds in Monica's twisted arsenal. Emma replied with documented rebuttals to each agency, flipping Monica's weaponized lies into evidence of her own fraud. Then came the photo on Joseph's truck. Emma circled again. Red felt tip handwriting. Pretty girls shouldn't celebrate too early. Same lens, same gleam. Federal task force drew the line. Agents from Iowa, Kansas City, Des Moines descended. FBI coordinated raids across the Midwest. 4 states, 6 locations, criminal enterprise of forgery and psychological predation. $500,000 seized. 70-plus farming families spared before becoming victims. victim compensation fund built. Emma's digital forensic technique became headline feature at the American Farm Bureau Federation. She received scholarship to Iowa State, internship at the State AG Crime Unit, now developing training to protect families across America. Meanwhile, the Brooks property became a demonstration farm run by new caretakers, young couple shifting in from Nebraska because they'd heard how one storm-prone farm defended everything with grit and data. The first Harvest Festival in years returned. Grandfather's old '98 John Deere led the parade. Joseph at the wheel, Emma riding shotgun, T-shirts reading, "Rural families fight back." Crowds, thousands, cheered. Law enforcement vehicles followed, behind tractors of neighbors who faced similar threats and survived. It was redemption, community come together, technology and tenacity tamed terror. Federal protections renewed for their research site. Joseph's contract expanded to include legal education tours. Emma's internship blossomed into career trajectory in agricultural law enforcement. Their story passed into legend. The predator who underestimated resolve and digital savviness. The daughter turned forensic sleuth. The community that fought back. That's the power of documentation, strategy, and refusing to be played by someone who looked comfortable in red souls. Monica's empire of lies evaporated against one family who had nothing to lose, and everything to protect. If it were you, what would you do when someone tracked your daughter, weaponized your pain, tried to steal your livelihood? And if your family was that threatened, are you ready to fight with documentation, alliances, and courage? I'd love to hear your own story.